Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ihtada bihuda ila yawmiddin, amma ba'd. So this is a new lesson that we're going to take in our academy, Ibn Abdul Bar Academy. And this lesson is about it's a commentary on the book of, or the chapter of fasting, and we're going to use the narrations of Bulugh al Maram, Bulugh al Maram, that was written by Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah, and he meant to collect and gather all the narrations that have to do with the rulings. So I'm going to use this translation that was by Darus Salam, Bulugh al Maram, attainment of the objective according to evidence of the ordinance, compiled by Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, with brief notes from the book Subul al-Salam, written by Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Salani. I'm not gonna use Subul al-Salam because Subul al-Salam is very summarized. This book actually of Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar rahimahullah has a lot of commentaries on it. It has a commentary well known, which is Subul al-Salam, written by Imam Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Salani, the Yemeni scholar who passed in the year 1000, who passed in the year 1152 in Sana'a, Yemen. And he summarized it from a book that was written by another Yemeni scholar, and it's more precise and more detailed. It's called Al-Badr al-Tamam, written by a scholar called Al-Maghribi, but he's not from Morocco. He's Al-Maghribi, referred to Western Sana'a, so they called him Al-Maghribi. And his book is published. It was published last year's, and it's detailed. And so Salani rahimahullah wanted to summarize it, and he took the main idea of the book and he did Subul al-Salam. There are other commentaries like Tawdih al-Ahkam in Bulugh al Maram by Shaykh Abdullah ibn Abdul Rahman al-Bassam rahimahullah, a scholar and a judge who was in Mecca. I participated once in one of his lectures in Al-Masjid al-Haram. His books are very neat and good, and he's one of the famous students of Shaykh Abdul Rahman bin Nasr Sa'di, the well-known scholar that has a commentary on the Holy Quran that is well known, everybody knows it, Tafsir al-Sa'di. And there's another commentary that is more detailed and neat by Shaykh Abdullah al-Fawzan, not Salih al-Fawzan, by Shaykh Abdullah al-Fawzan. This one is wide and neat and good, and it is said that it's the best commentary on Bulugh al Maram. It's the best commentary on Bulugh al Maram, and Shaykh Abdullah al-Fawzan is well known to write books in a neat way. He has several books written, like his commentary on Waraqat, his commentary on several topics. So anyway, our goal is to know the rulings of fasting, especially that we only have now about 2 weeks to reach Ramadan. So the Muslim has to know always the rulings of any worship that he is going to practice. And nobody's is innocent, or nobody's not blamed if he doesn't take care of these kinds of things. When you are going to face any worship that you are asked and it's part of your religion, you have to know all the rulings of it. And you are blamed if you don't ask for that and search for that. So this is part of your religion. And we in Ibn Abdul Barr Academy, we are going in a program that teaches all these obligatory types of knowledge that every Muslim has to know. And then we are going more than that for the students who want to go more deep. But this lecture, I'm not going to make it according to a specific madhab. I'm going to try to say all the opinions and try to take from it the most accepted opinion so that everybody can benefit from this lecture. So this lecture is for everybody. It's not only for students. It's not only for the Maliki students. It's not for the beginners nor the enders. It's for any Muslim who wants to know his religion and wants to know how to fast Ramadan. So it's going to be in 10 lectures, inshallah. This is our expectation. And let's start. So, Kitab al-Siyam, the book of fasting. Al-Siyam means fasting. And that's according to the language. Siyam means more than fasting, actually. Siyam means seizing something. So the one who doesn't speak, we say he's sa'im an al-kalam. Like Mary said, Maryam alayhi salam, Inni nadartu lirrahmani sawman. I made an oath for God Almighty that I won't speak at all. Inni nadartu lirrahmani sawman. But in the Sharia, fasting is ceasing eating and ceasing sex from the dawn to the sunset. And it's one of the pillars of Islam and one of the main obligatory worships of Islam. And the evidence on that is derived from the Quran and from the Sunnah and from the agreements of all scholars. Allah Almighty says, Kutiba alaykum as-siyam. That means it is written on you to fast. Written here means it is obliged to you, on you to fast. The Prophet ﷺ says, Islam is built on 5. And he mentioned from it fasting Ramadan. So he says fasting, he says Islam is built on 5. Witnessing that there is no God except Allah and that Muhammad ﷺ is the messenger of Allah. and praying 5 regular prayers, and بني الإسلام على 5 شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله وإقامة الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة, and giving the regular charities, and fasting Ramadan, and pilgriming to the holy land of to Hajj, yani pilgriming to Mecca, performing Hajj. So these are the 5 pillars of Islam, and these are the 5 pillars that are mentioned in the Hadith of Gabriel, peace be upon him, when he came to teach the people their religion, and he started asking the Prophet ﷺ several questions as if he was a Bedouin, and the companions of the Prophet ﷺ were surprised that this guy that they don't know, and he seems as a Bedouin, but he's asking and telling the Prophet ﷺ, yes, that's right. The hadith is in Sahih Muslim, and even there's another narration in Bukhari and other books. Yes. Bismillah. Okay, this is my right hand because the image is flipped over. So there are a lot of secrets of fasting, and there are a lot of wisdoms from fasting. Why did Allah Almighty order us to fast Ramadan and order us to fast anyway? Why did He do that? He did that for several meanings. The first meaning, we can say that it's, which is the main meaning, that this is a secret between God and His servants. And it is like, it's like something, this is a secret between you and God Almighty. No one knows that if you are fasting or you're not fasting, because fasting is ceasing from eating. You can pretend that you don't eat, and then you go anywhere and eat. So it's a trust. Allah trusts you, and you know that He's supervising you. So therefore, when you're by yourself, you don't dare to eat, because you know that Allah Almighty is looking at you. He's supervising you. So it teaches you to be a trustworthy person. You become a trustworthy person. The second thing is that fasting teaches you to be patient. Even if you're hungry, you don't go and eat. You stay patient until the day finishes, and then you can eat. So it's patience to obey Allah Almighty. It's patience that you don't commit sins. It's patience that this is the destiny and you are pleased with the destiny. The third thing is that you share with the needies their hunger. So you feel their hunger. When you're hungry, you feel that the needies are hungry like you. So therefore you think about them, you take care of them, you become pity on them. The fourth thing is that fasting is very beneficial for your body. In the way that if you don't break it when you break your fast. I mean, if you keep on balanced in eating after breaking your fast, you will benefit a lot because your stomach will rest a little bit from working, and your body will rest a little bit, and that would be beneficial for your whole body. Yeah. So therefore, fasting is a worship that gathered all types of beautiful meanings, beautiful meanings. And that's why Allah Almighty ordered nations to fast, and He said to us in Surah Al-Baqarah, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. So this is the main goal. O you who believe, it is written on you to fast as it was written on the nations before you, that you will maybe, or so that you would fear Allah Almighty. You would fear Allah Almighty. So this is the main goal, that you would fear Allah Almighty. And now let us read the first hadith, which it says, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصمه muttafaqun alayhi. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do not fast for a day or 2 days ahead of Ramadan except a person who is in the habit of observing a particular fast. He may fast on that day. Agreed upon. What does agreed upon mean? Agreed upon means that it is agreed by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. And this is the highest kind of authenticity. This is the highest type of authenticity of the narrations of the Prophet ﷺ, which Al-Bukhari and Muslim agree upon it. Both of them narrate it in their books. And normally, if both of them narrate it, that means all scholars agree that it's authentic. What does this hadith mean? This hadith prevents us from fasting before Ramadan 2 days or 1 day. That means don't fast 28, 29, 30 of Sha'ban. So you stick Sha'ban with Ramadan. This hadith, when he prevents you from doing something, it seems that it's haram. It's forbidden. But most of scholars say it's not forbidden, it's makruh, unpreferable. So there are few scholars who say it's haram, forbidden. But the majority say it's unpreferable, not haram. So this is the majority scholar, what the majority of scholars say. And normally, things that have to do with morals and attributes and good acts, if you don't do it, normally it's something that is makruh, not haram. Something that is makruh, not haram. That's how most of scholars deal with these types of prevents. These types of prevents. Now, especially because there is an excuse here, an exception. What does the exception say? The exception says if you have a habit, for example, you always fast Mondays and Thursdays. So Monday came in the last day of Sha'ban and it became stuck to Ramadan. Are you allowed to fast it? Yes, you're allowed to fast it because of this. Or you have an oath to fast so and so days, so it became part of Ramadan or stuck to Ramadan. Or actually, you're fasting a day. You have a habit to fast day and another day, or 2 days and break your fast. 2 days and break you have a habit. So it was in those days, so you're allowed to fast that day. Or you made an oath to fast, I don't know, many days. So it got stuck to Ramadan. Or you need to give back some days that you didn't fast, like a woman, or you were sick, or a woman had her menstruation period, or whatever, and you still didn't do it. You have to do it in those days, and that's something that is obliged for you. It's not something that is only preferable. So you have to fast that day. Now, why is it unpreferable to not fast those days? Actually, scholars have several opinions about that. So some scholars say that you have to differentiate between what is obligatory and what is preferable. So what you're fasting is not obligatory, it's only mustahab, sunnah. But Ramadan is obligatory. And the same thing, you are asked when you finish your prayer, if you want to pray the sunnah after the regular prayers, you are asked to change the place that you're sitting in. So you don't confuse between the two prayers. Or at least you speak or do anything to show that you cut this prayer from the other prayer. So it's the same idea here. Others said no. That's not the reason. The reason is that you are asked to enter Ramadan and you are happy and you're active to fast. You're not getting bored because you fasted before Ramadan, so when Ramadan comes, you get used to it and get bored from it, fasting it. No. The Sharia wants you to enter Ramadan and you're active, happy, and you're feeling the sweet of fasting. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah, in his commentary on al-Bukhari, which is called Fath al-Bari, he says that the reason of that is that fasting is hung to supervising the moon. You have to see the moon or the coruscant of the moon. And when you fast 2 days or 1 day before you see the moon, that means you are trying to not follow this ruling. You're not following the ruling of seeing the moon. You just fasted, and if it passes on Ramadan or it doesn't, you don't care. You're just fasting. It seems that the reason is that we are asked in Islam to not exaggerate in following the rulings of Islam. We are asked in the Quran and the Sunnah to follow Islam balanced. So anyone who goes following Islam in going so deep or squeezed or whatever, he's a fanatic. Islam is against being fanatic and squeezed in your religion. You are asked to be balanced in your religion, and you're not asked to be fanatic in your religion. So maybe this is the idea of that. So when you go passing the limits and you're fasting and you're tying 1 month with another month, that means it's something that is like you're not taking care of this part of the religion. Okay, now why did he say only 2 days or 1 day? Well, he says because that is the reason where somebody, when he wants to to tie the 2 months with each other, he does that before Ramadan. Or if he wants, he says, okay, I'm not sure that is that Ramadan, it's not Ramadan. Okay, let me just tie the 2 months with each other and I'll enter Ramadan. And many of the Shafi'is say no. When Sha'ban becomes 15 days, after 15 days you're not allowed to fast anymore. And they went back to Hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, where the Prophet ﷺ says, إِذَا انْتَصَفَ شَعْبَانُ فَلَا تَصُومُوا. When Sha'ban becomes in the middle, don't fast. This hadith is narrated by the 4 narrators of the Sunnah, Abu Dawood, An-Nasa'i, Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, and Ibn Hibban said it's authentic, and there are several scholars who said it's authentic. But the majority of scholars say you're allowed to fast after the middle of Sha'ban. And they said that this hadith is not authentic, it's weak. And they said that the Prophet ﷺ used to fast the most of Sha'ban. Aisha radiallahu anha says that there wasn't a month that the Prophet ﷺ used to fast a lot in it like Sha'ban. And he never fasted a full month except Sha'ban. He used to fast all of Sha'ban or most of Sha'ban. Somebody can say, okay, how come he can fast all Sha'ban? That means he ties Sha'ban with Ramadan. No, when we look at the hadith, we find that he didn't fast the last 2 days or something like that. So he didn't used to tie them with each other, no. But he used to fast the majority of Sha'ban. So how can you say that if Sha'ban becomes 15 days or half of Sha'ban comes, don't fast anymore? So this hadith it conflicts with the other hadith which is in the Bukhari and Muslim. It's an authentic hadith. It's in the high rank of authenticity. Even Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah says that it is not unpreferable to fast the 10 days of Sha'ban according to the majority of scholars. So the majority of scholars say that you are allowed to fast the last days of Sha'ban. Maybe we can gather all these narrations with each other and say if this hadith is authentic. The one that has a habit to fast, he's allowed to fast even after the middle of Sha'ban. The one who wants to fast the majority of the Sha'ban, he can fast that. But somebody didn't fast anything, and then he wants to start after the middle of Sha'ban. This is where this hadith speaks about. Wallahu a'lam. This is only an opinion, which is actually, which agrees, which the Shafi'is agree about. The Shafi'is agree about this because they don't agree to fast after the middle of Sha'ban. So this is what this hadith is speaking about. Okay. The second hadith, وعن عمار بن ياسر رضي الله عنهما قال من صام اليوم الذي يشك فيه فقد عصى أبا القاسم صلى الله عليه وسلم. ذكره البخاري تعليقا ووصله الخمسة وصححه ابن خزيمة وابن حبان. Narrated Ammar ibn Yasir radiallahu anhu, he says, who fasts on a day about which there is doubt concerning the stars of Ramadan, has disobeyed Abu al-Qasim sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Al-Bukhari reported it mu'allaq, broken chain from his side, while al-Khamsa, the 5 narrators, which are Muslim and Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, while the Khamsa, according to the the term of Imam al-Hajar in this book reported it موصول, unbroken chain, and Ibn Hibban graded it sahih, authentic. Okay? So actually, this hadith is actually Ibn Hibban and Ibn Khuzaymah, both of them, not only Ibn Hibban. It says Ibn Hibban, no, it's Ibn Khuzaymah and Ibn Hibban. Both of them said that it's authentic. This hadith actually it's an authentic hadith. And it's narrated by Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, and Nasa'i, and the Tirmidhi says this is an authentic hadith. And all of scholars, and the majority of scholars from the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and who are after them from their followers, all of them say what this hadith says. Ad-Daraqutni as well said that this is an authentic hadith. All of the narrators are trustworthy. Al-Bayhaqi says the same thing. Al-Iraqi and Hakim and Al-Dhabi, all of them say that. And Ibn Abdul Bar says the same thing. So this hadith actually is an authentic hadith. There's no doubt about that. And yes. So this hadith is an authentic hadith. And let's see what he means by al-khamsa. One moment, please. Oh, there's it's. Okay, anyway. Okay, anyway. So this hadith, what does this hadith mean? What does this hadith mean? What is the goal of this hadith? And what is the day that is doubtable? What is the day that you doubt about? Well, actually, this hadith means that... who is Abu al-Qasim anyway? The day that you doubt about is the last day of Sha'ban. So you don't know, is it 30 of Sha'ban or 1 of Ramadan? There's a doubt there. Why is there a doubt? Well, because you couldn't see the crescent, the moon of Ramadan, so you doubt it. Is it Ramadan? It's not Ramadan. And Abu al-Qasim is the Prophet ﷺ. They used to call him Abu al-Qasim according to his elder son, Qasim, who passed when he was a child. So he means here that the one who fasts the last day of Sha'ban and he doubts that it might be Ramadan because there isn't a proof that it's Ramadan and there isn't a proof that it's Sha'ban. So he has disobeyed the Prophet ﷺ. That means the Prophet ﷺ prevented us from fasting the last day. And this hadith is, it goes proving the previous hadith. Because the previous hadith says, don't fast 2 days or 1 day before Ramadan. Here, Ammar doesn't say the words of the Prophet ﷺ. But he says that who does that, he disobeyed the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, this hadith, it might be referring to the previous hadith. And Ammar radiallahu anhu, which is one of the older, the old companions of the Prophet ﷺ, Ammar ibn Yasir, everybody knows that Ammar ibn Yasir and his family came from Yemen, and they were poor guys in Mecca. And Quraysh tortured Ammar and his father Yasir and his mother Ammar, Sumayya. She was called Sumayya. And they tortured her to death, radiallahu anha. And she was the first martyr in Islam. Sumayya, the mother of Ammar, was the first martyr in Islam. Abu Jahl came with a spear and he threw it on her and he killed her. And the Prophet ﷺ used to pass nearby them and they were tortured, but he couldn't do anything. They were so weak. Muslims in those days were few people and they were weak and they didn't have any power. So the Prophet ﷺ used to tell them, صبرا آل عمار فإن موعدكم الجنة صبرا آل ياسر فإن موعدكم الجنة. Be patient, O the family of Yasir, because our appointment is in paradise. The Prophet ﷺ couldn't do anything to them. So Yasir passed and Sumayya passed, but Ammar was still a young man. Once he said, they ordered him to say something bad about the Prophet ﷺ. So under beating him, he said that, and he went crying to the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, if your heart wasn't believing in what they said, and you did that because you were squeezed, you're excused. And then the narration, the revelation came down proving this. The Prophet ﷺ, even in some narrations, told them, if they do that again, say it again, as long as your heart is not believing in what you're saying. So let us go back to this hadith. We understand from this hadith that it's forbidden, or at least it's unpreferable to fast the last day of Ramadan, of Sha'ban, that you doubt it's Ramadan or Sha'ban. And some scholars say it's forbidden. Why is that unpreferable or forbidden? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَا آتَاكُمْ وَرَسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. Because he says that what the Prophet, what the Messenger tells you to do, you have to do it, and what he tells you to prevent, you have to seize it. And we take from this hadith that when the days, when something is carrying on, that we consider it as still existing. So this means that Sha'ban is existent until we have a proof that it finished. So the last day of Sha'ban, as long as we didn't see the new moon, it's part of Sha'ban, it's not Ramadan. And this is what we're going to read again in the other narrations, which another hadith which is after this hadith, and we will finish. It'll be the end of this lecture today, which the Prophet ﷺ shows us how do we prove that this month, this day is from this month or from this month. Because, okay, I want you to notice something very important. Islam and the whole religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Muhammadi Sharia or the Mosaic law or all the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't consider a month as a month except by the moon months. The Sharia, the divine law, never pays attention to the solar year or months. Even the Mosaic law, it's all built on moon months, lunar months. But one of the worst innovations that the Israelites and the Jews and Christians did is that they hung their months with the solar months. And that was a very dangerous innovation which twisted and changed the whole religion. It is said that the Christians used to fast in a month that is like Ramadan or Ramadan. And sometimes it becomes very tough for them to fast it because the day is so long and hot and whatever in the summer. So they decided to change it to a month that is not hot. So they changed it to solar months, like the Romans used to use solar months. And to know that the Romans used to have only 10 months. But when they became Christians, they added 2 months to it, so it became 12 months. Because in the Holy Book, the months are 12. So they made it 12 months. But actually, it's 12 months, lunar months, not solar months. The same thing the Jews did. And that made them to try to compare between what they have in their book and what changed, because the solar month changes every 4 years. So they add a month every 4 years, which is called, because they have the last month is Adar, so they added the Adar. That means a new Adar. So it becomes 13 months every 4 years or something like that. The Christians didn't add a month, but what they did is that they changed that the day that adds every 4 years. So they omitted from February some years, some days, it becomes 28 days, and they add some days to other months, it becomes 31 days, and in that way they twisted the whole thing. And all of that is innovations, and it's corrupting the law, the divine law. That is corruption of the divine law. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah At-Tawbah condemns these types of acts, which the Arabs used to do as well. They start changing the months so that they can fight in those holy months, the sacred months, which are 4 months, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna iddat ash-shuhuri inda Allahi 12 shahran fi kitabillah. The counting of the months in the book of Allah is 12 months. 4 amongst them are sacred. And he says, إِنَّمَا النَّسِيءُ زِيَادَةٌ فِي الْكُفْرِ يُضَلُّ بِهِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا يُحِلُّونَهُ عَامًا وَيُحَرِّمُونَهُ عَامًا. So, nasi means they shift the month from its place to another place. If shifting a month from its place to another place is considered as kufr, what about shifting the whole months, 12 months, from lunar months to solar months, like the Jews and Christians did? That's more and more. It's a huge innovation, which is called, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, ziyadatun fil kufr. That means it's more infidelity. That means it's more going far from the religion, of the divine religion. So anyway, let's go back to this hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says, where Ammar says that who does this, he is disobeying the Prophet ﷺ. Why? Because the last day of Sha'ban is considered as part of Sha'ban. As long as we don't have any evidence that changes it from becoming the past part of Sha'ban, it's part of Sha'ban. That's it. You're not allowed to exaggerate and say, no, it's not. I'm suspecting that it might be Ramadan, so I'll fast it. No. Why did he say Abu al-Qasim rather than saying Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And we know that it's not polite to call the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam by his name or by his nickname, and the polite way is to call him by his post, or the prophet of Allah, or the messenger of Allah. Because here he's not calling him, he's mentioning who he is. And he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's polite. So actually, and using the nickname like this, Abu Fulan, it was very polite according to the Arabs. The Arabs, when they want to call somebody and respect him, they don't call him by his name. They call him by the elder son, or by anything. They call him the father of so-and-so. And for a woman, they call her the mother of so-and-so. They didn't used to use these titles that we use nowadays, like Mr., Mrs., and Miss, and Master, all these words. They didn't have that. It's not they didn't have that. It wasn't part of their way in calling people. Later on, it became. Now, later on, we started having Sidi, Mawlai, and stuff like that. Sayyidi, Mawlai, and stuff like that. And the way is that these types of titles go back to the cults. And Islam respects the cults as long as they don't conflict with Islam. So if you are in an environment that uses types of titles, it is polite and that you have to use those types of titles in speaking with people to respect them. I don't say you have. I mean, it's not obligatory, but according to the Sharia, but it's a polite way to use it. Islam is not against that. Yes. What are the opinions of scholars about this? The opinions of scholars about this is that the hanbalis say, and this is so strange actually, this is one of the strange opinions of the hanbalis. The hanbalis say that Yawm Shak, which is the suspected day, is the 30th day of Ramadan, of Sha'ban, the 30th day of Sha'ban, as long as there is nothing that covers the moon. Nothing covers the moon, and you didn't see the moon, so they suspect about that day, and they say it is obligatory to fast that day. And they say that this day is the day that you are not allowed to fast. But actually this day is part of Sha'ban. Of course you're not going to fast that day because it's part of Sha'ban. How can you fast as if it's Ramadan? It's part of Sha'ban. They say no, that is the suspected day. But and that is the day that they say you're not allowed to fast it. So this means that according to what they're saying, this is referred to the previous hadith, which means that you're not allowed to fast before Ramadan 1 day or 2 days, which is part of Sha'ban actually, not part of Ramadan. But this is the but here, according to the Hanbalis. But if there is something like clouds and stuff like that that doesn't let you see the moon, so you couldn't see the moon. So in this case, this is a day that you have to fast. Why? Because they say that the moon could be seen, so it might be really Ramadan. So therefore, so that you won't eat the first day of Ramadan, they ask you and they oblige you to fast that day. And they claim that this is the opinion of a lot of companions of the Prophet ﷺ, like Umar and Abdullah ibn Umar and Aisha and Asma, her sister Asma, and Anas and Abu Hurairah and Muawiyah and Amr Ras, and a lot of tabi'een like Maymun al-Mahran and Tawus and Mujahid. And they say that the Prophet ﷺ said that the month is 29, and they say the month إنما الشهر 29 يوما فلا تصوموا حتى تروا الهلال ولا تفطروا حتى تروه فإن غم عليكم فاقدروا له. Says the month is 29 or 30 days. So don't fast until you see the croissant. And don't break your fast until you see it again. And if there are clouds that you couldn't see it, so اقدروا له. اقدروا له, they interpreted this word, that means squeeze it. So fast it, let me say, fast that day. Because وَمَنْ قُدِرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقُهُ, that means it is squeezed. His provision is squeezed on him. That's how they interpret that word. But the majority of scholars, Malikis, Hanafis, Shafi'is, don't say that. They say the day that you suspect about is actually this day that they say you have to fast it. It's a day that there are clouds and you couldn't see the month, and therefore it's actually a day that might be from Ramadan, but there's no proof that it's from Ramadan, so you consider it as a day of Sha'ban. And therefore, you're not allowed to fast it so that you won't exaggerate. And actually, if you fast it, according to the Malikis, if you fast it and it is actually Ramadan, it's not considered as one day of Ramadan. You have to repeat it again. Why? Because when you fasted it, you weren't sure that it's Ramadan. So how can you fast a day that you're not sure that it's Ramadan? And in fasting, you have to be sure that that day is part of Ramadan. So you're suspected, you don't know, is it Ramadan? It's not Ramadan. So don't fast it. And the hadith are very clear about that. That the day that you don't see the moon, you're not supposed to fast it because it's part of Sha'ban. And this hadith that the hanbalis use is against what they're saying actually. So that's why even Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah and Ibn al-Qayyim and a lot of latest hanbalis don't agree about what their madhab says. So they don't follow this opinion, and they follow the opinion of the majority of scholars. The last hadith that we're going to speak about today is عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إذا رأيتموه فصوموا وإذا رأيتموه فأفطروا فإن غم عليكم فاقدروا له متفق عليه ولمسلم فإن أغمي عليكم فاقدروا له 30 وللبخاري فأكملوا العدة 30 وله من في حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه فأكملوا عدة شعبان 30. Okay, it says here the narration Ibn Umar رضي الله عنه, the people try to cite, no, wait a second, narrated Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, I heard Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, fast when you see the new moon, and break your fast when you see it. But if the sky is cloudy, calculate the month as 30 days. Agreed upon. This hadith is agreed upon. Muslim has, if it is cloudy, calculate the month as 30 days. Al-Bukhari has complete the number of days as 30. Al-Bukhari reported the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu completes the number. The month of Sha'ban has 30 days. Oh, this is hadith. This is so clear that aqduru lahu, that doesn't mean squeeze it, because another narration of Muslim says make it as 30, calculate it as 30. All of the narrations say calculate it as 30. That means the month, as when you don't see the moon, you have to complete it as a full month, which is 30 days. So you have to fast Ramadan when you see the moon. And you have to break your fast when you see the moon again. And when any place in Islamic land, I don't say your country, Islamic land, from Morocco to Malaysia and to Indonesia, and from Turkey to Somalia to Pakistan, to all these lands, Turkestan, everywhere in the Islamic land. Anybody who sees the moon, he has to report that, and when he reports that, all Muslims have to fast that day. So we don't fast unless we see the moon. Are we allowed to calculate that? Are we allowed to have a calendary and that's it? And follow the calendary? No. We have to see the moon. But if something is proved, and when we speak about seeing the moon, it doesn't mean that the moon is born. No, it has to be born, and then it has to be in a way that you can see it. Everybody and the land and on earth can see it, because when the moon is born, the new moon, which is the Karason, is born, it's so thick, it's so thin that it can be supervised in some places and it can't be supervised in other places. So therefore you aren't asked to supervise it and see it. Sometimes when it's born, it can't be seen as at all on earth, except after a few hours. Or sometimes there's a day. There has to be a day, 24 hours, something like that. Therefore, you have to see it by a normal eye. But if there are machines or things that you can see here and there and search for the moon, and you can see it by those machines, are you allowed to see that? Yes. Yes, because it's using the eye. It's like when you're using your glasses, so the glasses make you see it normal. So it makes your eye see it neat. So you are allowed to use these types of telescopes and stuff like that. Now, if you couldn't see it anywhere because there are clouds and stuff like that, therefore you continue Sha'ban 30 days. And you break your fast that day. Now, there is an argument here. There is an argument here. Now, some people say that we can calculate things and count it and know, is it going to be seen or not seen? According to the previous years, the ancient days, this calculation is not something that is sure and neat. But nowadays, we can give you for 100 years what is going to happen on the moon and how the weather is going to be. Tomorrow is going to be rainy, after tomorrow is going to be so and so, after all this is something, according to science, it's something obvious. You don't have to have any problem about that. Now, therefore, when we're speaking about calculation, or when scholars of astronomy and the people who supervise the moons and the sun and stuff like that, they know how they are going to do, when the month is going to be born, when the moon can be sighted, can be supervised and stuff like that. This is now something obvious. It's not something that can make mistakes, and that it's not you're not sure about it. So are we allowed to use that nowadays? If it's sure, and we can supervise it and send people to supervise it, so that we just can use the hadith and the science, that is something that we can pay attention to and depend on. And in that way, Muslims can unite the Arabic moons, the Arabic months. Not like what's happening nowadays. We can see people just this country fast, this country still doesn't fast, and sometimes the borders are the same, and these guys here are fasting, these guys here are not fasting, and the same problem goes to the West, America and Europe and Australia and stuff like that. And you can find people following Saudi Arabia, people following India, people following I don't know what, or others say that we want to supervise the moon by ourselves, and we don't care about Arabic countries. And all of this is corruption. We have to have everybody to fast in the same day. We have to have 1 month, like non-Muslims united their months. So January here is one, and it's everywhere in the world one. It wasn't like that. They had problems in that to unite those months, but they managed to unite them. We Muslims have to unite our months as well, so that we don't have this problem anymore. So therefore, the majority of scholars, hanbalis, Hanafis, Malikis, say that when the moon is sighted anywhere in the world, every Muslim has to fast that day. And when it's seen anywhere in the world, everybody has to break the fast. Shafi'is have the opinion that every place, not every country, not every state, every place has its own sites. And actually that opinion is not a strong opinion. It's not a strong opinion at all. So I think this is enough for today, and we will meet inshallah next week, and we'll continue this topic. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khairan.